He's not James
But do you
Harden.
see what's going on in Hong Kong, though? I mean, they're shutting down everything. I mean, I don't know.
But
they're worried.
Well, no, but hold on, let him finish though, because I would like to respond to this point.
Okay, so my point is that he's not the most out front guy, even though I do understand that the Houston Rockets are the most popular team there. He's not the commissioner. He's not a star player. He's not someone that is well known to people in China, I'm sure, the GM of the team. So, and when I saw his tweet after a few days of hearing about it, I was like, damn, that's it?
If you believe we can change the narrative, if you believe we can change our communities, if you believe we can change the outcomes, then we can change the world. I'm Rob Richardson. Welcome to Disruption Now.
Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson.
I'm James Keys.
I'm Tunde Ogunlana.
We want to ask you the question today. You know, at Disruption Now, we always like to pose questions that make you think, that disrupt common narratives and constructs. So the question we have today is American values for sale? Is this something we really believe in, or is it really just about money? I bring that up because I want to talk about China, and I want to talk about Trump, and I want to talk about basketball. All those things seem like they may be not even connected, but follow me, they do. So you might have heard in the news, the GM of the Rockets sent out a tweet. You gotta be careful with those tweets because they get caught pretty quick. He sent out a tweet seemingly to support the protest in Hong Kong. So there's been protests in Hong Kong for a long time, and not for a long time, but for the last few months in China, protesting, wanting freedom, fighting for American. Dedicated too. I mean, really fighting. They've been in the street. They've been shutting down airports, shutting down businesses, fighting for the principles that America is founded on: freedom of expression, you know, just the ability to speak, freedom of press, all those things. They want those rights. They're used to those rights because they used to have them pre-China, and so they've been fighting for it. They've been fighting for it very, very hard. And so there's been a lot of sentiment here in America that we want to support them, at least verbally. So the GM sent this out thinking like, you know, I want to support freedom of expression, but man, he forgot that it's about money in the NBA. It's about money in America sometimes first. And China responded. Now, China is a huge, huge global partner for the NBA. And by the way, side note, I've been to China. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole long, but they love basketball. And let me say, I'm a tall African-American man. So when I was there, we had to give ourselves another hour because people would ask me for my autograph and assume, you know, I'm a tall black man, so I got to be a basketball player. Anyway, they love basketball. You just got to trust me on this. It's true. Talk to somebody from China. They love it. They love it. They love it. So the NBA sees a natural expansion here. You're talking about over 1 billion people that love basketball. There are billions to be made. And they see the opportunity. They say cha-ching, the same opportunity that multinational corporations have seen in China and have made a lot of money off of. And now the NBA wants to extend that. So China was not happy about that tweet. They were so unhappy that they said, we're going to cancel these games and we're not sure if we're going to go forward with our partnership. And guess what the GM did? Do you think he said, well, I'm going to stick by my principles and fight for freedom of expression? Nah, reverse course quickly. And all of a sudden, it was like, we didn't mean to offend. I'm sorry. I take it all back. That's pretty much what he said. So I have a question in America right now. Are our values for sale? Is it really more important for us to make money, or is it important to fight for the principles of America first? What do you guys think, James?
America's values is the dollar, you know, like, and we've tried to justify it, you know, throughout history, you know, like even with China, you know, like our stated belief was that bringing, you know, our companies over there, showing them our way of life would lead them to want to have, you know, freedom of speech and types of things that we believe in. We bring our values to them. But that's not the case. You know, they've been authoritarian for 70 years, you know, and, you know, our president's, you know, congratulating them on that.
Yep.
You know,
and they've shown, by the way, you can make money. This is something that I think is important. They've shown you can make money without a democracy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and that's, I mean, because democracy, you know, and the American, you know, like the American system, you know, in terms of constitutional protections for unpopular things is an exception. You know, that's not how the world operates normally. The world normally operates where, you know, unpopular stuff gets, you know, crushed, murdered, or exactly, like put to the side, or, you know, at best. And so, you know,
which is what's happening in China.
Yeah, so China, in their authoritarian state, they have an economic system that they've been able to make a lot of money and grow an economy very strongly and use our technology, use our companies, and our people have been able to make a lot of money on this. And yes, obviously that's value. And Morey's tweet was very simple. It was fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong. And from that, just that. And he deleted it, shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
And China has not let it go. I mean, presumably they want him fired, because right after that, the owner came and said, hey, he does not speak for us. That's not what we believe. We don't want to offend anybody. He came back later with an apology, but China's still canceling games. China is serious about this. They don't.
Oh yeah, they're serious. I mean,
yeah, they do not want.
It's what happens when you have an authoritarian government. They can do
exactly. You
like
have to crush dissent quickly and severely. Like you can't have this type of thing, because if they let this go, then their people will start seeing this. They censor. Obviously there's a lot of censorship going on there. They tell the government tells the people anything that the government doesn't like. They say it's not legitimate. Because that's how authoritarian states work. I don't know if that's familiar to anybody in terms of how like our government works now. Anything that they don't like is fake, but that's how authoritarian states work. So the information, who people get information from, is very important. And so if people see that Hong Kong is fighting for freedom, because in mainland China they're considered separatists, they're not fighting for freedom, because censorship has not allowed people to find out what's going on. Anything that comes in saying that is decried as fake news. So our value is money, though. I mean, that's the thing. So this is America showing its values. We don't believe in freedom of speech.
So you think we don't really believe in this if it gets in the way of money? No.
People believe in money. People believe in power. And that's it. Like we're okay with doing. Our biggest ally in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia. They're killing journalists.
Fair enough.
That's been.
And they're adopting the same language.
Remember, they just allowed women to drive for the first time in 2018, Saudi Arabia. So
they've been authoritarian state the whole time. And we've been cool.
No, you're right. Tunde, you look at Saudi Arabia.
Let me jump in, because I agree with everything that was said, and it made me realize too, I think sometimes we misunderstand the difference between an economic system and a political system in this country. Meaning we get caught up with communism, capitalism, socialism. China's capitalist. They got, I think, 2 different stock markets within China. All that stuff. They obviously make a lot, make billionaires and all that. But you can have a capitalist system under an authoritarian regime, just like you can have a democratic system with a capitalist economic, democratic political system, and capitalism is the economic system. So, and vice versa, you can have a socialist system that's authoritarian or democratic. So but what this really pointed to me was a little bit more of maybe China's insecurity and weakness as a country on this topic specifically.
Really? Okay.
As an authoritarian, because for China to react like this, I mean, this is a very emotional, fast reaction for something. First of all, the guy's the GM of the Houston Rockets. I mean, we're not talking
about the most popular basketball team in China.
I understand it's the most popular basketball team, but he's the GM. He's a guy he's not James Harden.
But do you see what's going on in Hong Kong, though? I mean, they're shutting down everything. I mean, I
know, but
they're worried.
Well, no, but hold on. Let him finish, though, because I would like to respond to this point.
Okay, so my point is that he's not the most out front guy, even though I do understand that the Houston Rockets are the most popular team there. He's not the commissioner. He's not a star player. He's not someone that is well known to people in China, I'm sure, the GM of the team. So, and when I saw his tweet after a few days of hearing about it, I was like, damn, that's it? So what it showed me from an authoritarian regime's perspective, I can understand their concern, which is, oh my God, we've got 300 million fans of NBA in our country. The Houston Rockets are the most popular team. And this guy just put on blast that he's supporting the people in Hong Kong. This might not go good for us on mainland here. And I would assume
also that they're fighting for freedom.
Correct. But I would also assume, I'm just going to assume this one because I got no knowledge of it, that the current situation with the trade war and all that's going on right now in the fourth quarter of 2019 is also kind of just bothering them. So I think this might have been one of those things where it's like, you know what, we're taking it from all angles from America. And this one was one where they could control it a bit, unlike stuff with the administration and the bigger business negotiations. This one was easy for them to say, all right, we're just going to now do our knee-jerk reaction, no more NBA. We're going to, get rid of all this. You guys, violated our trust, and now they're going to act like they're so upset. So to me, it kind of showed a little bit more about them in that moment. Like, whoa, you guys, that's sensitive. You must be worried about this Hong Kong thing spilling over into the mainland.
Well, no, but see, you misunderstand how authoritarian regimes maintain their grip.
No,
they have to suppress.
My comment understands that. That's my point.
Well, but that's how you stop.
To someone else talking about us like that by totally shutting them off. Like you said, we're about money. We'd be like,
no, but see, that's what I'm saying. That's what you misunderstand.
They're about power.
You have to understand that if you have to set an example if you're an authoritarian state and anyone of any influence steps out of line, you have to set an example. You have to go overboard so that the next person doesn't do it. If they say, this isn't that big of a deal, then James Harden does it next. Or Yao Ming does it. And so this isn't weakness. This is textbook when you're an authoritarian state. When you have any kind of dissident going on, you have to crush it immediately. And you have to make sure that nobody else follows along in that path.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all they're doing. They're just running the playbook. This is the same thing, for any authoritarian state. This is how they deal with anything that could potentially show that they're not in full and complete control.
No, I agree. I think
today, one other thing I want to get to, and then I'll let you respond too. I think they also understand America. They knew, and it looks like they were right, that our value will be money over freedom of speech or anything else. So as long as we respond that way, they're not losing money. They're gaining more leverage. They're going to say, okay, now when you come back, these are going to be the terms. And so I don't think they're losing money. I think this was a power play by them. They say, we know America is going to just sell out for the money. And we know that enough of these people care about making billions over this one little GM. So we're going to say, look, you get rid of this guy, make sure this never happens again. And I'll be willing to bet this show it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's their gamble.
Obviously we got to see how this plays out, and we might come back for another discussion on this depending on the next few weeks or months. I was going to say, I think that with the point I was making earlier, we're on the same page, Jimmy. I think we break on the opinion differences. My opinion would be that any authoritarian regime that has to knee-jerk react like that, to me, is a sign of long-term weakness. I understand short-term, they got to shut down dissent and all that. But I think that one of the greatness of America has been that, it's kind of like, what was it that Teddy Roosevelt said? Talk softly, but walk with a big stick.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, I don't know if we got that as a virtue anymore with this current administration.
But to your point, the current administration leans more towards authoritarian, right?
Which is actually a good transition, right? I mean, the point, and I want you to answer this today because I know you're all about Ukraine and what's going on there. I believe that's another example of what this president did to show that American values are for sale by the president too. You look at what he said to Ukraine. The president of Ukraine said, "Yeah, you know what? I might give you a little bit of military aid, but only if you do this." And he's saying, the fact is, that probably makes Putin smile ear to ear because if Ukraine's not getting that help, they're taking over that country even more, and they're pushing back against the values and things we believe in. And so it looks like America's for sale for our administration. What do you think about that?
If you're going to ask me to question a stable genius who knows more about this than just generals, and I just can't do that. But you're
wait. What is the new term? He said my unmatched wisdom. What was it?
Oh my goodness! This is in a tweet. I had to go find it again. It was wild.
To answer the question, obviously the answer is yes. That is a blatant. I mean, look. That's what I was going to say. That it was a perfect phone call, even though the transcript did show that he said he wanted a favor. So. Obviously, that was just blatant. You're right, and it's interesting that I would say that example is hugely blatant. The example I would think of, though, other than that one, would be just our relationship with Saudi Arabia. I would say it's in overdrive right now as an example under this administration, but let's peel it back for maybe 20, 30 years. And don't get me going in this direction too long, but obviously. Saudi Arabia is the birthplace of Wahhabism, the extreme version of Islam that led to Al-Qaeda. We know that 19 out of the 20 hijackers or whatever were from Saudi Arabia. We know Osama bin Laden's from Saudi Arabia. So somehow, again, it's the same thing. We've allowed this one country in the Middle East to stir up so much stuff around the world, all because of the petrodollar recycle effect and the need for oil and cheap oil. And as long as they keep buying our treasuries and allow us to stay in deficit spending, we're going to look the other way. So that's why I said I'm not going to get too far on that tangent because I won't be quiet. But if we really want to look at it at a high level, it's a shame, but you're right. Our country has spoken a great word and something that we all want to aspire to in certain ways. And in other ways, it's all about the money. And maybe that's just kind of all of us as humans, or maybe that is something a little bit more unique to the nation as a whole. But yeah, you're right. We can't deny that.
America.
Well, it's not all Americans, though.
All
I mean,
Americans.
it's that there are enough Americans and that control enough switches, whether it be in the media or know how to manipulate Americans who don't have any money to say it's all about the money, or to understand when someone makes decisions that are all about the money. So it's not all, like, there are Americans who believe in America, the American concepts and the American ideals and the American framework. Don't forget, there are, more Americans who voted against Donald Trump than voted for Donald Trump. But the prevailing, when you look at how decisions are made in our business communities and in large part in our political arena, there is a lot of calculation going on as far as what will be the monetary payoff or what somebody's going to do for me. Not necessarily there's not a lot of John Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. There's not a lot of that going on in our leadership and in our business communities.
And I'll one up you on that and take it to the direction of that's probably why we haven't seen much movement in climate change, right? Because everybody that's in control of some system that probably has a negative effect on the climate right now does not want to get off their gravy train. And so it's another example of, we all have enough evidence that climate change is probably going to derail humanity in a certain way that will be painful over time. But no one wants to be the guy to say, I'm going to get up from my seat right now and take an L so that others can be better. And maybe
I disagree with you there. I think actually the root of that is that there aren't any solutions that people believe in. I think that people would be willing to get off their gravy train if they thought getting off their gravy train would help. I think people think, oh, it's going to happen no matter what. We're screwed. So I might as well just make all this money. Don't ask me to make a bunch of sacrifices if we're going to lose anyway. So I think that's more of the issue. Definitely, I think the concept is in people's minds, but I think more so it's a risk reward. Why would I risk my stuff if what you're saying ain't gonna work anyway?
But we're gonna have a separate conversation on climate change.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not gonna go down that road.
Oh, and by the way, it was great and unmatched wisdom. Yes, and his great and unmatched wisdom. If he decides,
unmatched wisdom.
Yeah, great. That's how we're making decisions on foreign policy now. Not based on what the generals say, not based on what the people on the ground say, the intelligence community. It's just the president's great and unmatched wisdom.
But remember, we shouldn't be surprised, and definitely I don't want to get off tangent and make this conversation all about one person, but we shouldn't be surprised because he telegraphed all this during the 2016 campaign.
He did, and let me say
no one believed him, but he said it. I know more about ISIS than the generals.
He did, but bringing it back to what we're talking about in the selling out of American values. We've done this for a long time. We've chipped away with China and made little deals. Like you're able to do things like China was able to know all the trade secrets to all these companies, and suddenly the companies got upset when China started copying. Like, what did you think they were going to do? You just think they were dumb? Like, this is how this works. And so part of the reason why Donald Trump got elected, there were many reasons, but I believe a central reason was he talked about going after China. There are real problems with China. There are real problems with China and a lot of our partners, but particularly China. And we don't have a fair exchange in terms of how the work is done. And so workers are pissed, and they should be. But he's not really doing anything about it. And so we have to decide as America what our values are, and if our values are more important than our money. And I'm talking about those who are in power, because it's not going to be regular Americans that are going to profit. It's going to be the few. And that's ironically why Donald Trump was elected for a lot of reasons. But I guess what people forgot is that he's one of the people that's been screwing you over for the last 30 years. He hires all of his
people remember he promised, he said he knows how people are being screwed over and he's going to help. Like he's a con man. Like, hey, I know what's going on. He just doubled down on it.
He doubled down, tripled down on it. But look, this is where we're at as America. If you want American values to move forward, we have to be willing to fight for them. And that means that sometimes you can't put money over principle. Because if you do, maybe freedom doesn't mean anything. Maybe we can just have a president now that can not only go after his political rivals, but maybe he can go after you. And maybe that's what we like. Maybe we might make more money that way. But is it more important to protect freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, or is it more important to maybe make a little more money? I think that's what people have to decide. You got the wrong one,
man. There's only one amendment that people will protect over all those things, and it's not freedom of speech. It's not freedom of religion.
It's the right to bear arms.
It's the right to. You start screwing with the Second Amendment, people will say, "Oh no, we're willing to forego all the money. Like, we got to protect." But if it comes down to unreasonable search and seizure or equal protection under the law, people are choosing their money. Power. I think power is also a part of it, which is evidenced by, when Trump calls Ukraine and says, I want to write dirt on my political rival, in exchange for this money. Or when he calls China and says, hey, what do you guys know about, Biden? What do you guys know about Warren? Like, those are power plays, meaning it's for power, we're also for sale too. At least, again, not all of us, but our leadership, places in our leadership. I mean, it's known. Senate Intelligence Committee just the other day released their report saying Russia's goal in 2016 was to sow discord. Sow discord and erode public confidence in the government. Those were the goals of Russia. That's exactly what's going on right now. Yeah. Well, it's not just Russia doing that, though. Sow discord, send her back. That's sowing discord. Like, that's what we do. All of that stuff, our values are to consolidate power, right? As evidenced by behavior. You go a long way in the wrong directions if you listen to what people say. You have to watch what people do and watch
That's
what people
all that matters. Nothing else matters but what they do.
You should see better than you hear, or else you're always going to be fooled. But if you're talking sow discord and you don't see send her back as serving Russia's interests, that's what Russia's trying to do, or build distrust in the government, and people out here talking deep state, like we are following Russia's playbook because we don't stay to our values.
And Putin's over here laughing about it.
Yeah, because it's not about us and our values. It's about us and our money, or us and our power, at least in terms of the people who are most motivated to speak up and to vote. And until we can change that and get more people who are willing to speak up and to vote, who believe in the principles of the country, things like freedom of speech, things like freedom of religion, and that the state doesn't adopt one religion. And, until we get more people that are willing to participate, because there are more people that believe in that stuff, but those people aren't the ones that are screaming at the top of their lungs at everything that goes on and that are willing to wait in line to vote, And so at the end of the day, their interests get drowned out by the vocal minority.
Yep, that's how it works.
Yeah,
so,
and I think one thing that a lot of us don't want to acknowledge that love America is that this has been American history since day one.
Of course.
We have a great rhetoric and the Bill of Rights and the whole Constitution, all men are created equal, but everybody knows about slavery, all that. But there's a lot of other smaller, I won't call them smaller because a lot of people are affected, but not as big topics as something like slavery that have happened in this country. Whether we talk about women's suffrage, whether we talk about, even I would say this, I think one of the things, I saw an interesting documentary years ago about Russia and America, kind of how we've been poking at each other since the Second World War. And they were making the case that one of the reasons why we kind of got integration by the late 60s really was because Russia was doing such a great propaganda job, both internally and externally in the United States, again, showing our hubris and our hypocrisy that, America's acting like they freed the world in World War II and they're going around the world trying to change all these South American countries and all. Back in the days,
and you don't even like black people. That worked
in their own country.
And look how they're treating black people exactly. And so I think that documentary is kind of alluding to the United States powers that be, like in the government, were saying, you know what, it's true. These third world countries are starting to look at us saying, what do you mean you want to come in here and have us hire your companies and help us with oil fields and all these things and modernize us? You're not even treating your own people the right way. So it's something that our country has been through. Yeah.
You have to balance it though, because the values stated, throughout our country's history, the values, the ideals, they've always been aspirational.
Correct.
They are the reason why since the beginning, progress hasn't been linear, but progress has been defined by
Absolutely.
leftward march.
Yes.
Leftward march has been the progress. And that's actually why you see, like the conservatism evolve into reactionary, reactionaries, like we have to take things back to some other way that they work, because I can't live side by side with these black people, or I can't live side by side with women who have equal rights to men, or I can't live with women who have control over their reproductive organs. Like, there are people from a conservative mindset that these changes, they can't accept them as status quo now. They want to go back. And that's because the ideals put in place set up the stage that as society evolved, it would march towards a more free and more just society. So we can't, I think you have to be careful judging it too harsh at the beginning or even along the process, and it's our job to move the ball forward now.
It's our job. Eternal vigilance is, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. We said it often.
Because you can slip off really quickly and be back at the beginning or further back.
And we're close right now. We're close. And this is an inflection moment in America and really in the world. So this is really important which way we go now. America and the world, I would say, is always at its best when America is closer to its ideals and not away from them. And to close with what Langston Hughes said, he said,
well, you can't close yet, man. We talked about all this. So what should the NBA do? Or what do you think? Like, obviously you don't think they should fire Morey.
I forgot about that, man.
Yeah, we started off like we got to at least say, so what's the response here? By the league, by the Rockets. What is there? Do you stand on principle or do you acquiesce? And acquiesce may be you have to fire Morey. Like that. What do you do?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, if you fire Morey, you're gonna have to pay him out a lot. I mean, so if you do that,
they fire GMs all the time though. Like that, I don't think the money is the.
But they fire him for this. This is not. I mean, he would.
Yeah, I don't think. The problem with that is that you're firing. That would be a legal issue, I think, bigger than money. Like, meaning you're firing a guy because another country got upset about something he said on social media.
No, you're firing him because he is impaired your ability to do business.
Well, let's put it this way. Maybe this is room for guys like you, smart lawyers, drawing up new contracts for NBA.
That don't matter.
I just don't know if they can retroactively.
Tunde, if you work for a company and you say something that causes your company to lose $1 billion contract, you don't think your job would potentially be on the line?
Yeah,
but particularly if they can get the $1 billion contract back if you're out.
But I think that a good defense lawyer for him could argue that what he did, that the mundaneness of that tweet. No,
I mean, he went the money. That I don't think the NBA cares.
He would get his salary. He wouldn't be fired for cause. Like, he would get his money. I'm saying, do you fire him? Do you step up against China and say, look, you guys are wrong here. We're justified, or do you do something in the middle?
That'll be interesting. We'll find out in a few weeks. I'm sure.
This is a pickle.
It's a pickle. But here's the thing. Like, they made this deal a long time ago. They know the deal they've gotten into. So what China's terms are going to be. Now, I wouldn't take it back, but I just tell China, look, we just got to move forward here. I wouldn't take anything back because for a few reasons, not only because of the money, but once you show weakness, they're going to get you on other stuff. So I don't agree with giving in. I don't think they should. I don't think they should fire him. They should just say, look, we're not trying to tell you what to do with your country. By the way, I don't agree, but right now we're actually here to make money. But that's it. We're not going to talk about this publicly about stuff, but we can't stop our fans and others from it. And I don't think this is the right move for both of us. We've been able to do well, and that's it. But I wouldn't have even have taken the tweet back, because I just think they're going to try to push harder, because this is what authoritarians do. If they sense weakness, they're going to keep pushing. So I wouldn't give them anything.
You wouldn't get so now. I actually come in an interesting place here. Like, I would at least internally ask the question on calling them and see if you can push them on a bluff. Because the thing China has to wrestle with here is, like Tunde said, they got like 300 million basketball fans, and they all know, they've seen it now. They know
exactly.
China can't make the NBA disappear.
I agree.
So the NBA actually is uniquely situated to be like, you know what, screw you. Like, we're going to double down on this. Now, whether you do that or not, I'm not going to say. I don't know if I have enough information to be saying, hey, you should double down and go like this. But the question should be asked, the analysis should be done on, hey, we may take a short step back, but we may be able to bend them here.
Yeah.
We got power to bend them. I agree.
So I don't know. But what were you gonna say, Tunde?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, just also, this is again, me with my big high level philosophy BS. This is another to me.
Give it to us, Yoda. Go ahead.
Yeah, fascinating example of how social media just has continued to disrupt kind of like just our lives and our culture over the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years. Because I thought about it after this happened. Like, first of all, my first thought was, what the hell are grown men that are GMs like this doing on Twitter? Like, nothing ever happens good in the long run with social media.
Twitter is the old man social media, so you should be on that.
I'm just making the joke that I'm tired of all these people just out there always telling their mindset on social media. Like, it gets you more in trouble.
Well, see, Tunde, you're uniquely situated there because you get paid to tell people your mindset. So you're like, I'm not giving it away for free.
Well, but then the other thing I thought of is going back to just the disruptive nature of where technology is globally is, let's say 10 to 15 years plus in history, right? Prior to that time in all of human history, and let's just say in the last 30, 40 years prior to that with the NBA in the 80s or 90s, a GM just would have never had a chance to give his opinion about what he thought about what's going on in China. Probably because with iPad news feeds and all that, maybe he wouldn't have been that in tune with what's going on overseas because he wouldn't have just gotten the media.
That's true. The world is more connected.
Correct. The world's more connected in that way. The second thing is, I think if the guy ever was on camera getting interviewed, it would have been about his basketball team and the game at hand. So the ability for him
just to add to that point, and if he would have said this, they could have edited it out.
Correct. Yeah.
Once the tweet goes live, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so there's no filter. He's able to get more information because of technology than maybe, a basketball GM otherwise would have been maybe in tune with global affairs. And then the last piece is he can respond to things like this outside of his traditional exposure to media, which prior would have only been sports. Now he can get on Twitter. And like you said, Jimmy, with no filter, by himself, he affected now billions of dollars worth of deals. And so that's kind of the thing I thought of, like, wow, this is another example of how social media is disrupting the world and just technology in general. And then I wonder too, like,
or just plain stupidity for sending out a tweet that you didn't think about. But go ahead.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He had it was just the inability to do this was here prior to this technology. So, and then the other thing is maybe this is the first time that seriously, like a guy in the front office of a sports team, not even like the main player or something like that, that's on TV and has the publicity, might actually influence like a geopolitical trade deal. I'm sure the Chinese are going to try and use this when they're talking to Trump and the administration too. Like, hey, you guys got, all these people talking about this and trying to influence Hong Kong. Look at that. They're probably going to call him a CIA plant. Like they'll probably go nuts trying to use this to their advantage. So it's like, I was thinking, damn, one guy tweet, and this is going to upend a lot of people's days that have been working on
it's a lot more.
He's a smart guy. I think this was intentional.
It was.
And he took it, he deleted it right away. I think it was intentional. He knew what would happen. Like, I don't know if he knew the full extent, but I think that, remember, he goes to China, annually or whatever. Houston's very important, very popular there. So he said at the time,
because of Yao Ming.
There.
Yes.
And,
correct. But look, he cannot back down. This is my opinion. He shouldn't have backed down, shouldn't have showed any type of equivocation because now they're sensing that they have the leverage. And so I just don't think that, I think, as you said, James, we have more leverage because, look, they don't have LeBron over there. They don't have that. That doesn't exist, right? They want to see LeBron. They want to see Giannis. They want to see those athletes. Believe me, I've seen it in China. That's what they want to see. That's what the people want. So we have more power, and our principals have more power, and we should, extract that leverage as much as possible because, I do believe in the principles of America, and the closer we get to that, the better we are as Americans. Eternal vigilance is always the price of freedom. I'm Rob Richardson.
I'm James Keys.
I'm Tunde Walana.
And we'll see you next time.